When I saw the for sale sign planted crooked in the front yard of my parents' house, I thought I was hallucinating. It was a Tuesday, one of those gray afternoons when the sky feels heavy and the wind smells faintly of rain. I had driven by the old house on my way back from the grocery store, just to check that everything was still standing. I wasn't supposed to see that sign. Not that day. Not ever like that. The white wooden letters were chipped and leaning slightly to the left, as though the earth itself had rejected them. For sale, bold red against white. And just below it, a name I recognized from a local realtor's billboard. The same one who sold my sister's new condo a few months back. I remember standing there on the curb, groceries still in the back seat, a bag of oranges rolling somewhere under the passenger seat. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The house looked different already. The shutters were repainted, the mailbox replaced, the porch swept clean. Someone had been preparing it. And I hadn't known. That house was supposed to be ours, my sister's and mine. The last thing our parents left behind. The walls that held our birthdays, our fights, our late-night laughter echoing down the hallway. But now, standing there on that cracked sidewalk, I realized something had shifted, permanently. And deep down, beneath the confusion, beneath the shock, something colder began to form. It wasn't anger yet. Just a low hum. A promise that this story wasn't over. Before all that, things between my sister Elise and me were stable, at least on the surface. After our mother passed 3 years ago, she and I inherited the house together. It was simple enough. 50-50 ownership, the lawyer said. Elise lived closer, so she offered to handle the paperwork, the taxes, and the maintenance. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? I had my own life to manage. A small apartment downtown, a job at the library, and 2 kids in college who still called home for money and advice. Life was full, steady, predictable. Every Sunday, I'd drive out to the old neighborhood with a basket of groceries and some flowers for Mom's garden. Elise and I would sit on the porch with coffee, watching the light fade behind the oak trees. She'd talk about her job, her new boyfriend, the condo she was thinking of buying. I'd nod listening, comforted by the familiar sound of crickets and the way the wooden steps creaked beneath our feet. We never spoke about selling the house. We'd both agreed it was too soon. That maybe one day we'd rent it out, or let one of our kids move in when they were ready. It wasn't about money. It was about keeping something of our parents alive. That house held the smell of our mother's cooking, ginger and garlic and old wood polish. The walls still carried faint pencil marks from our childhood heights. I thought Elise felt the same. But looking back now, I can see it, the small changes. The way she avoided certain topics. The way her tone turned clipped whenever I mentioned property taxes or the maintenance budget. I brushed it off as stress. Elise always had a sharper edge to her. I was the soft one, the one who avoided confrontation. That balance had always worked for us. Until the day it didn't. It's strange, the things you notice only in hindsight. There was that time, maybe 6 months before the sign appeared, when Elise said, "You know, we could do a lot with the money if we ever sold this place." I remember laughing it off. "Money can't buy memories," I'd said, thinking I was being wise. She didn't laugh. Just looked away, tapping her nails against the porch railing. That should have been my first clue. But at the time, I thought nothing of it. We were sisters. We trusted each other. And trust, I've learned, is like glass. You don't notice the cracks until it shatters in your hand. It started with a letter. A thin white envelope tucked between the junk mail on my kitchen counter. I remember the faint coffee ring on one corner. I'd almost thrown it out with the rest of the mail. Property tax statement, it said in small print at the top. My address was listed, but it was for the old house. I hadn't seen one of those since Elise started handling everything. Curious, I opened it. It was a notice of payment confirmation for the current year. Paid in full. But not by us. The payer listed was a company name I didn't recognize. Briar Realty Holdings, LLC. I frowned. Maybe Elise had hired someone to manage things, I thought. Maybe it was nothing. Still, something about that letter didn't sit right. I called her that evening. "Hey Elise," I said lightly. "I got some mail for the house. Property taxes, looks like. Did you pay them through some company?" There was a pause on the other end. Too long. Oh yeah, she said quickly. The lawyer recommended a management firm to help with documentation. It's easier that way. Don't worry about it. Her voice was calm, but off. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to press. But I didn't. I told myself not to make it a big deal. And so, I let it go. For a while. But little things kept piling up. The mailbox at the house was suddenly gone, replaced with one of those sleek metal ones. The curtains were changed. The garden, Mom's hydrangeas, had been trimmed back so harshly it looked bare. Elise must have been cleaning up, I thought. Just maintaining. Then one Sunday, when I stopped by unannounced, my old key didn't fit the lock. I stood there for a good minute, jiggling the key, checking the door handle, wondering if I was losing my mind. The lock had been changed. When Elise arrived 20 minutes later, she seemed surprised to see me. "Oh," she said, stepping out of her car. "I didn't think you were coming by today." "I wasn't planning to," I said slowly. "But I thought I'd drop off some things for Mom's garden." Her eyes darted briefly to the bag in my hand. "Oh, that's sweet," she said. "But I've actually been redoing the front. I'll handle it from here." Her tone was polite. Too polite. I remember looking at her then, really looking. Her nails were manicured, her clothes newer, her purse expensive. She looked comfortable. And in her comfort, I felt the first seed of suspicion grow. Something was changing. And I had no idea how deep it went. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning in bed, the image of that new lock replaying in my mind like a loop. It wasn't just the lock. It was her face when she saw me. Guilt has a way of showing itself, even when someone tries to hide it behind a smile. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe Elise had simply changed the locks for safety. Break-ins weren't uncommon in that neighborhood. Still, I couldn't shake it. So, I called the real estate lawyer who had helped us handle the inheritance after our mother's death. His name was Mr. Hanley, an old friend of our father's. I told him I just wanted to make sure the title and taxes were still under both our names. He said, "Of course, I can check that for you, Mary. Give me a day or two." 2 days later, he called me back. I still remember where I was standing, by the kitchen sink, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. "Mary," he said gently, "I'm not sure what's going on, but the property title for your parents' house was transferred 6 months ago." My grip on the phone tightened. Transferred? To who? He hesitated. "To Briar Realty Holdings. Looks like a sale, not a rental or trust transfer." I must have gone silent for a long time because he asked if I was still there. Yes," I said finally. My throat felt tight. Is my name still on it?" "No," he said. "It was sold outright. The signature authorization came through both names, but well, it shows your signature too." My heart dropped. "My signature?" "Yes," he said. "Dated about 6 months back." I remember whispering, "That's impossible." He sighed. "Mary, if you want, I can send you the documents. It's best you see them yourself." When the email came through, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the digital pages, the cursor blinking at the bottom corner. There it was, my name, my signature, clean and neat, just the way I signed every document. Except it wasn't mine. That I drove to Elise's condo the next morning. I didn't call first. I didn't even think about what I'd say. My hands shook on the steering wheel, a cold pit sitting heavy in my stomach. She opened the door, surprised but smiling like nothing was wrong. "Mary, you didn't call. What's going on?" I stepped inside without asking. "We need to talk." Her living room smelled like fresh linen and vanilla candles. It was spotless, everything in its place just like her. I noticed a brand new rug, new furniture, new art on the walls. She closed the door slowly, her smile fading. "Oi, what's wrong?" I turned to face her, holding up the printed documents. "You want to explain this?" She froze. Her eyes flicked to the papers, then back to me. "What is that?" "The sale agreement for Mom and Dad's house," I said, my voice shaking. "The one that says you sold it 6 months ago. Without telling me. Without my consent." Her lips parted slightly. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said quietly, "Mary, please just let me explain." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You forged my signature, Elise. You sold our parents' house. Our childhood home behind my back. What could you possibly say to make that okay? Her eyes glistened, but her tone hardened. You wouldn't have agreed if I'd told you. You never want to move forward. That house was falling apart. It needed work, money we didn't have. I did what I had to do. By stealing from me? I didn't steal, she snapped. I took initiative. You weren't even living there. You have your life, your job, your kids. I've been the one maintaining it for years, paying the taxes, fixing the roof, doing everything. I shook my head. You didn't even give me the choice, Elise. You took what wasn't yours to take. She exhaled sharply and sank onto the couch. The sale wasn't for that much after the fees and repairs. I used most of it to pay off debts, to buy this place. I was going to give you your share eventually. Eventually? I whispered. You were going to give me my share eventually? She didn't answer. The silence between us stretched until it felt unbearable. You forged my signature, I said again, slower this time. That's a crime, Elise. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I thought you'd understand later. That maybe once you saw how free I felt, you'd feel it too. I laughed bitterly. Free? You call selling our parents' legacy freedom? I felt something inside me crack then. Not just anger, but grief. Grief for what was lost, and for the sister I thought I knew. I left her condo without another word. That night, I sat in my car in a grocery store parking lot for almost an hour, watching rain streak across the windshield. I didn't even cry. I just sat there numb. It wasn't just about the house. It was the betrayal, the manipulation, the quiet way she'd done it all behind my back. I thought of my parents, how proud they were of their girls, how they used to say, "You'll always have each other when we're gone." And here we were, tearing apart the only thing that still tied us together. I didn't go to work the next day. Instead, I called a lawyer. A new one this time. I told him everything, from the inheritance to the forgery. He listened carefully, taking notes. Do you have proof of the forged signature? He asked. Yes, I said. I have plenty of documents with my real signature. And the lawyer from the original inheritance can verify. I never signed any sale papers. He nodded. Then we have a strong case. It'll be painful, but it's winnable. Are you sure you want to pursue legal action? This is your sister. I looked at him, my hands clenched together in my lap. Yes, I said. Because if I don't, she'll think she can get away with it. And I can't live with that. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, paperwork, and quiet rage. I didn't tell anyone, not my kids, not my friends. I kept it all tucked neatly inside, where it could simmer in private. Elise tried calling. She left messages. I didn't answer. But one day, I received a text from her. Please, can we talk? I'll make it right. I stared at it for a long time before replying. You'll make it right in court. And that's when everything truly began to unravel. The first court hearing was quiet, too quiet. Elise sat across from me, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup soft and deliberate, as though she wanted to look composed, controlled. She couldn't meet my eyes at first. I didn't force it. I didn't need her guilt to show. I just needed the truth recorded somewhere other than inside my chest. My lawyer, Mr. Perkins, presented the documents, the sale agreement, the signatures, the proof of forgery. He was calm, meticulous. Each paper he set down felt like another stone placed gently on her conscience. When it was Elise's turn to speak, she said the same thing she'd told me. That house was crumbling. I did what I thought was best for both of us. I meant to share the money. I didn't think it would matter how the papers were signed if the outcome was good. Her voice cracked a little at the end. For a moment, I saw the little girl she used to be. The one who used to hide behind me when she broke Mom's favorite vase. But this time wasn't a broken vase. This was years of trust gone. When the hearing ended, we walked out of the courthouse in silence. The wind outside carried the faint smell of asphalt and rain. Elise turned to me as we reached the parking lot. Her eyes were red. Mary, please, she said. We're sisters. I made a mistake, but dragging this through court, this isn't us. I looked at her, my heart heavy. No, Elise, I said quietly. Forging my name, selling our home, lying for months. That's not us either. I turned and walked away before she could answer. Over the next few months, the case stretched on. Paperwork, testimonies, appraisals. The buyers of the house, the company Briar Realty, were eventually contacted. They'd purchased the property under good faith, unaware of the forgery. The sale couldn't simply be undone, but Elise could be held accountable. Mr. Perkins explained that under the law, she would be responsible for restitution. Half the sale value, plus damages and legal fees. When he told me the amount, I remember feeling a strange calm. Not satisfaction, not vengeance. Just relief that justice, in some small way, still existed. Still, it wasn't easy watching Elise unravel. She called me again one night, her voice trembling through the speaker. "Mary, I can't afford this. I'll lose my condo." I closed my eyes, taking a slow breath. "You made that choice when you took what wasn't yours." There was a pause. Then a soft sob. "I thought I could fix everything. I thought you'd forgive me." I wanted to say something kind. I wanted to remind her that I loved her once, that I still did in some quiet, distant way. But love without respect is just weakness wearing a familiar face. So I said nothing. When the final judgment came, it was quiet, almost anticlimactic. The court ordered Elise to pay me my full share, half the sale, plus interest and restitution for the forged signature. She didn't look at me as the judge read the decision. I didn't look at her either. Afterward, I stepped outside and stood on the courthouse steps, staring at the cloudless sky. The world looked painfully ordinary. People walked by, talking on phones, laughing, unaware that something sacred had just ended between two sisters. The public consequence. Word got out. Small towns are like that. Secrets have short legs but loud mouths. At church, people started whispering when Elise walked in. At her job, someone must have mentioned it, because she eventually quit, claiming stress. I didn't gloat. I didn't spread the story. But truth has its own way of echoing. One afternoon, I stopped by the old house, my parents' house, for the first time since the sale. It was different now. The new owners had painted the shutters navy blue, added a swing on the porch. There were children's toys scattered on the lawn. It hurt to look at, but it also felt right. The house was living again, breathing in a new rhythm. I stood by the sidewalk, the same one where I'd first seen the for sale sign, and whispered, "You're in good hands now." Then I turned away. A few weeks later, Elise showed up at my door. It was raining again. She looked smaller somehow, her shoulders hunched, makeup smudged. "Can I come in?" she asked. I hesitated but opened the door. We sat in silence at my kitchen table. The same one where I'd read those forged documents months before. Finally, she said, "I've paid the first installment." I nodded. "I know. The lawyer called." She fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I never stopped loving you, Mary. Her voice broke on my name. I looked at her for a long time. Her eyes were red and tired, but beneath the guilt, there was still that same little sister. The one who used to sneak into my bed during thunderstorms. "I know you loved me," I said quietly. "That's what makes it hurt more." She nodded, tears spilling over. "I just wanted to start over. I thought if I had enough money, enough control, I could finally breathe. But all I did was destroy the only thing that mattered." I reached across the table and placed my hand on hers. She flinched, then let it stay there. "Elise," I said softly, "I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean we go back. Some doors close for good." She nodded, crying harder now, shoulders shaking. After a while she stood up, wiped her eyes and said, "I understand." At the door she turned and whispered, "I'll finish paying you. Every penny." I nodded. "I know you will." When she left, I didn't feel relief or victory. Just a quiet kind of peace. Like standing in an empty room after a storm, knowing the roof still holds that a year later. The money was paid in full. I used part of it to buy a small cottage on the outskirts of town. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a garden, and a porch that faced west. I planted hydrangeas out front, just like Mom used to. The first time they bloomed, I cried. Not out of sadness, but gratitude. Elise and I don't speak often anymore. We send each other cards on birthdays and holidays, short and polite. No bitterness, no pretending either. Just distance, measured, peaceful distance. Sometimes, when I sit on that porch in the evenings, I think about how betrayal doesn't just steal what's yours. It changes who you are. It forces you to rebuild, to decide whether you'll grow bitter or wiser. I chose peace. The first winter in my new home was quiet. No echoes of childhood laughter down the hallway. No creaking stairs that led to the bedroom I once shared with Elise when we were girls. Just the hum of the heater and the soft tapping of rain against the window pane. At first, the silence felt heavy, like grief that hadn't yet decided where to settle. But slowly, it began to feel different. Peaceful. I filled my days with simple things. Baking bread on Saturdays. Reading by the window. Volunteering at the library's community program. The little cottage had its quirks, the pipes rattled, and the floorboards whispered underfoot. But it was mine. Every sound, every imperfection felt earned. Sometimes people asked me if I missed the old house. I'd smile and say, "No, I don't miss the house. I miss what it used to mean." Because truthfully, it wasn't the walls I mourned. It was the feeling of belonging, of family, of safety. And once that was gone, no structure, no bricks or beams could bring it back. But what surprised me most was how healing didn't arrive in one big moment. It came in pieces. Like the day I found an old family photo tucked in one of my unpacked boxes. A picture of Elise and me sitting on the porch steps, our legs dangling, our mother behind us smiling. We must have been around 8 and 10. Elise was squinting against the sun, holding my hand. I stared at that photo for a long time before framing it and setting it on the kitchen shelf. I didn't do it to forgive her again. I did it to remember that before the mistakes, before the betrayal, there was love. And that love, however buried, was still real. That a few months later, I ran into Elise at the grocery store. It was strange how ordinary it felt. She was standing by the fruit aisle, choosing apples one by one. She looked different, tired but softer somehow. Life had humbled her. She noticed me before I could decide whether to walk away. "Mary," she said, her voice small, cautious. "Elise," I replied. We stood there among the shelves of produce. Two women who had once shared everything, secrets, sorrows, a home, and now shared only silence. "How have you been?" she asked. "I've been good," I said. "You?" She nodded. "Better, I think. I've been going to counseling, trying to sort things out." I smiled faintly. "That's good." We talked for a few minutes, small things, weather, family, nothing heavy. And before leaving, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded envelope. "I've been meaning to give you this," she said. I hesitated, but took it. When I got home, I opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, written in her neat, careful handwriting. She wrote about guilt, how it followed her like a shadow. About how she saw Mom's face in her dreams sometimes, disappointed but not angry. She said she finally understood that the house wasn't just property. It was memory. And she'd sold it because she was tired of feeling trapped by the past, not realizing she was erasing what little of it we had left. She ended the letter with this line: "If I could give it back, I would. But all I can do now is try to be someone you could trust again, even if from a distance." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the same frame behind that old photo of us. Some things, I decided, didn't need to be forgotten or displayed. They just needed to be kept. Quietly. That spring, my garden began to bloom again. The hydrangeas opened in soft shades of blue and pink, the same colors Mom loved. I'd sit on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the petals flutter in the wind, feeling something I hadn't felt in years: freedom, not from people or memories but from resentment. Forgiveness isn't a doorway you walk through once. It's a path you walk every day, one step at a time. And sometimes, you walk it alone. I remember one particular evening. The sun was setting low, painting the sky in warm streaks of gold and rose. The air smelled faintly of earth and rain. I was sitting outside reading, when I saw a car slow down in front of my house. Elise's car. She didn't get out. She just sat there for a moment, looking toward the porch. Then slowly, she rolled down her window and lifted a hand, a small wave, hesitant but genuine. I raised mine in return. No words. No need for them. She drove off, and I went back to my book, the moment already softening into memory. Sometimes closure isn't loud. It doesn't come with apologies shouted or tears spilled. Sometimes it's just a wave from a distance, and the quiet understanding that things can never be what they were. But that doesn't mean they can't be peaceful. The cottage feels different now. Warmer. More alive. I've painted the walls a soft cream, hung lace curtains, and built shelves filled with the books I love. Every creak in the floor feels like a conversation with myself. A reminder that I built something honest from something broken. I no longer visit the old neighborhood. Not because I resent it, but because I've outgrown the need to look back. I've learned that sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is walking away, not in anger, but in grace. And that's what I did. When I think back on everything now, the betrayal, the courtrooms, the tears, I don't feel bitterness anymore. If anything, I feel grateful. Because losing that house taught me something my parents always wanted us to know. Family isn't built on blood or inheritance. It's built on honesty, on the choices we make when no one's watching. Elise lost me long before the sale. She lost me the day she chose silence over truth. But I also lost something that day. The illusion that love alone can fix everything. And maybe that's what growing up really means. Learning that forgiveness and boundaries can coexist. That peace doesn't always mean reconciliation. Now, when I water my hydrangeas and feel the evening breeze on my face, I think of my parents, of that old porch, of laughter long gone, but never forgotten. And I whisper softly, I'm home. You know, sometimes life has a way of teaching us lessons we never asked for. The kind that leave bruises on the heart, but clarity in the mind. When I look back on everything, my sister's betrayal, the house we lost, the silence that came after, I don't see it as punishment anymore. I see it as a kind of pruning. You know how gardeners cut away what's dead so that something new can grow? That's what this was. Painful, yes, but necessary. Because not every bond that breaks needs to be mended. Some just need to be honored for what they once were, then laid gently to rest. And I think about Elise sometimes, how she must carry her own quiet sorrow now. We both lost something that can't be rebuilt. A trust shaped by childhood and love. But maybe in losing it, we also found something different, truth. And truth, even when it hurts, is always lighter to carry than lies. That if there's one thing I've learned, it's that forgiveness doesn't mean you invite someone back into your life. It means you stop carrying the weight of what they did. You put it down, right there on the roadside of your heart, and you keep walking, free, steady, and finally at peace. So tonight, as I sit here with my cup of tea and the soft hum of crickets outside, I feel grateful for every twist in this story. Because it led me here, to this quiet home, this calm heart, this steady peace. Tell me, my dear, if someone you loved betrayed you like that, would you seek justice? Or would you simply walk away? I'd love to hear your heart in the comments below. And if this story found you tonight, if it reminded you of something you've survived or forgiven, then I hope you'll stay a while. Subscribe, share, and come back next time. Until then, take care of your peace and remember, sometimes losing what you thought you needed is the only way to find what truly belongs to you.